Busy weekend coming up, starting tomorrow night in the Premier League when Liverpool will look to regain top spot against Southampton. We have got FA Cup semi-finals, and then we've live coverage on Sunday of Everton against Arsenal. Everton playing some of their best football of the season at the moment up against Arsenal, who away from home have struggled this season but really need a win in that battle for the top four. On the football show tonight, we're going to talk to Paddy Agnew in a little while. He is in Italy and he's been keeping a very close eye on what's been going on with the racist abuse towards several back players over the past week or so. We'll chat to him about that and the undercurrent in Italian football at the moment, where this seems to be becoming more of a regular occurrence. But before that, Kevin Kilbane is on the line. Evening, Kev.
How are you doing, Nick? All good?
Oh, lovely chair. Lovely chair,
Jeez,
Kevin.
do you know what? I'm just trying to get a bit of chili con carne down my neck. I've got JP breaking my balls. You know, it's just like, Kev, can you finish your dinner? You got 45 seconds till we're on air. So that's where I am, really. Yeah, so there we go. We're
live on all our social channels as well. If anyone wants to leave a comment or has a question for Kevin, do get in touch. 53106. That you're not at home, Kev. Where are you? It's the BBC putting you up in a nice, fancy 5-star hotel.
No, I'm in the Media City actually. No, I've come up to see a friend tonight, so I'm just by the BBC buildings here tonight. Yeah.
Anyone famous around? Properly famous.
Mike Bushell from BBC Breakfast, who does the sport on BBC Breakfast. He's the one I met. So looks a bit like you, actually, Nathan. He's got the beard going on.
Good-looking guy
today.
Good-looking guy.
Oh, he's a fabulous-looking fella. Honestly.
We can only imagine. So, first things first, the draw has been made this evening for the European Under-17 Championships, which are taking place in Ireland in May. Ireland have been drawn with Belgium, Czech Republic, Greece. In that draw, there was certainly far more difficult draws. At that level, I guess, most countries would feel they're at a similar enough level, Kevin?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there are the standout nations, of course. That's the way you'd look at it. But yeah, I think in general the way that it is at that level, you know, if you get yourself well organised, and even if you're playing against maybe technically better players or physically better players, then if you set up in a certain way, you can stop that. So it's very, very open, and that's the way that I'm sure will improve come the summertime.
Well, Group B is Netherlands, France, England, and Sweden. Group D is Spain, Italy, Germany and Austria. And Group C is Iceland, Portugal, Hungary and Russia. So I would say that is a reasonable draw for the Republic of Ireland. And Stephen Doyle...
But do you know what, Nate? I just think with that, though, I think realistically you could actually go into any game and approach it and beat them, couldn't you? Say we had England and we had Netherlands and France in our group. I know that you're looking at the nation as a whole and we're thinking about the mass players that they're producing, but I think if you get everything right and you get the players technically right within the 23 or whatever it will be, the squad that's there, it's not insurmountable without a doubt. I don't think it's like senior level. The gap isn't that much.
So it is going to be a long weekend of football, starting tomorrow night with Southampton against Liverpool. Saturday, you've got Premier League games, big games at the bottom. Manchester City against Brighton in the Cup semi-final. Then Sunday, we're going to be at Goodison for Everton, Liverpool. Then you've Watford against Wolves in the second of the Cup semi-finals. What are you looking out for this weekend? What are you most looking forward to?
I've had a bit of a change in shift today, actually. I'm down for Football Focus at Wembley on Saturday. So I've shifted from Premier League mode back onto FA Cup mode. So
once again, it's the magic of the Cup and the greatest cup competition in the world.
Well, the greatest cup competition in the world, as you say. The magic of it, you know, what it means to us all growing up, Nathan. We have to think about that when we think back to when we were kids. I'm actually looking forward to it anyway. I'm just seeing how Brighton go on in that game anyway. But I think all eyes on Liverpool. I think that's the way it is. That Southampton-Liverpool game tomorrow night. I'm looking forward to that game. I think I don't fancy Southampton. I have to say that. I think Liverpool are better when they're playing away from home in many respects, because Southampton are going to have to come out. They still need points as well, and all they've probably got themselves safe the way it's looking now to me. But they will probably come out under your mate Hasenhüttl. That's the way that they've played. They've come out and tried to attack sides. I think it plays to Liverpool's hand. I think Liverpool will hurt them with the pace they've got, and I think then it'll be then looking towards City for the next couple of weeks and seeing how they go in those big games they've got coming up in the Premier League.
Like, the dynamic of the title race is interesting. It does feel as though Liverpool simply cannot afford to slip up at all. Even if they just drawn against Spurs, suddenly it turns into Manchester City needing to drop points in 2 games because of the way the goal difference is at the moment. And that's a huge pressure on Liverpool going into this game. But then you get the win. Again, you're putting and they haven't shown it, but you are putting some pressure on Manchester City that maybe eventually they do slip up. Do you see, do you see there being a huge pressure on Liverpool ahead of this game?
Well, the pressure's on them themselves. You were at Anfield at the weekend. I wasn't at the game, Nathan. The first half that I watched, I watched a lot of the game back. First half, Liverpool, like they're in total control, looked like they were cruising. The change of shape that Pochettino put out for the second half, I think I think that's the one thing about Pochettino. What he does, I think, his game management is very good, and I think it affected Liverpool. And I think you touched on it in commentary a little bit as well, that Liverpool did look a little bit nervy. I think it was a different sort of Liverpool performance in the second half. So we have to be realistic at this stage of the season. Both sides, even City, I don't think City is showing it because of the way that they're winning. You look at them against Fulham last weekend. Look at them against who did they play last night again? Cardiff. Yeah, it was cruise control, mate, wasn't it? Let's be fair. The hand. It looks as though maybe as an outsider, as all outsiders looking in, they're handling it better. The nerves will be there, but that expectancy on Liverpool. I think there's a thrill about it, but also there has got to be that fear of, oh God, if we miss this chance again, how long is it going to be again? Whereas City just look a little bit more relaxed, but that's understandable because of the players that they've got. You look at De Bruyne last night. De Bruyne is just coming back to form, and just coming back from the injury, of course, back to form. It was an incredible performance from him. So Liverpool will be under pressure, but I think it suits them tomorrow night playing away from home. I think that'll help them.
Yeah, I guess the root of that is if City don't win the league this year, they'll probably win it next year. They're certainly guaranteed to be contending.
In the next couple of years, won't they? In the next couple of years, you fancy City to go again, won't they? Whether that'll be Guardiola will be there in the next 3 years, but somebody will come in and get City right during the next 4 or 5 years. So you think they will win it, yeah? And that's fair to say. I think that's spot on.
Slight tangent on that game last week between Spurs and Liverpool. You talk about Pochettino and the way he changed things. Pochettino was banned from the sideline from that game, and Brian Kerr was on commentary, and he felt actually it did make a big difference that Jesus Perez, his assistants, was, but not in a positive way during that first half, that actually not having Pochettino on the sideline means that maybe the players, I don't know if it's their concentration or they're just a bit too relaxed that he's not there. But then you look at the substitutions and he looked as though he got them spot on, that actually having that different viewpoint, maybe away from the emotion of the game a little bit more, being able to see things more clearly. It's a surprise more managers don't sit up in the stand, or is it?
Well, your mate Big Sam used to do it. He was renowned for it, wasn't he, sitting up in the stand? But no, Nathan, I don't think he'd have made the change he made at half-time if he wasn't sat up in the stand. You know, from our commentary position when we're at the games, you see the big picture, you see the 11v11 on the... We can see the mistakes sometimes before they happen. I mean, more so you than me. That has to be said. But you know, it's true when you see in the bigger picture, you can see little pockets of the pitch that teams are getting exposed. And I don't think he'd have made the change if he was down pitch side. I think with him being up in the stand, I think he could see the mistakes, the fundamental mistakes that Tottenham were making. And I think that's why he did that, because he was up in the stand. So
is it just the done thing to stand at the edge of your technical area and shout at your players?
If it's going tits up, that's the problem, isn't it? If it's going tits up, it's he's not connecting with the team. He's not on the sideline. It's a catch-22, isn't it? What do you do? What do you do for the best of the side? And you only need to look at rugby. Rugby's a fine example of that. Coaches sit up in the stand, analysing the full 15v15, and you can see the bigger picture. And I'd be big whenever I'd be, even myself. And again, does it really matter on the bigger picture? But if I'm ever analysing a game, no matter what I'll be doing, I'd always want the widescreen shot. You can see basic errors that defenders are doing. You can see defenders getting sucked out of position, getting caught out by a run of a certain player. On the big widescreen, you can see it a lot more. It's much clearer and easier to see.
Apologies, I'm just Googling Mike Bushell here. Ah, yes. The early morning, Saturday morning sports presenter. I like him. He's got that very nice, casual, sort of
lovely
casual sports style. He looks absolutely nothing like me. We could not be more different.
He's about 5'5". He's about as tall as you, Nate.
Oof. I'm not gonna stand for that at all. I once taught Mike Bushell about the world's most beneficial exercise, backward running. True story. There are articles on the BBC website about Bushell trying out backward running. Is a texter.
Is that right? He did one on Gaelic football once. He went down and joined, I think it was actually Oisin's, the team in Manchester. You'd have met a few of the lads when you've been down the station. He went and did a feature on them and tried his hand at playing Gaelic football one time.
He's got a very chappers BBC style. Chilled out.
Is he?
Yeah, likeable.
He's a good lad.
Is Kilbane in a canteen kitchen, or is he playing those spoons with his toes?
No, I said to him in Media City, I'm just literally up by next door to where Match of the Day is being filmed. It's literally probably, if I could walk through the wall, it'd be about 40 yards away from me.
Kev loves doing Skype calls in public places, makes him look like the Lord of the Manor. Does he bring signed photos for the fans around him from Spooner?
There's nobody around me. It's very quiet where I am at the moment. It's good.
So you're going to be at Wembley now, are you, on Saturday then for Manchester City Brighton?
Yeah, I'll be there early actually. So I won't be at the game. Sorry, no, I won't be at the game. I'll be doing Football Focus in the morning. So I'll be doing Football Focus with Steve Sidwell and Sean Wright Phillips in the morning, and then I'll be hopping back on the train. I've got a friend of mine looking after Maguire, so I've got to get back to the dog. You're
missing the cup semi-final to get back to the dog.
I have to. I can't. It's that's priorities, and I'll hopefully get back to see it. I'll probably watch it by the time I'm back in up in Manchester.
What do Brighton do to disrupt Manchester City in a way that neither Fulham or Cardiff were able to do over the past week?
Yeah, I hope they don't play the same way. If you look at Man City over the last 4 or 5 weeks, they've played against the same system, and City have got a couple of goals in front, and it's been cigar time. I think they've got to have a way to get at them. There's now whether that's with ball carries that they've got in the side, and they have one or two. You've mentioned Knockout a few times. He is a decent ball carrier. He's got ability. They've got one or two players in that side. Are they going to go direct and try and beat the press and go direct into Glenn Murray? That's another option for them. But ball carries is the way to get at them, and I think they've got to maybe try and utilise that, because the way that sides have played, if you saw Fulham at the weekend, the first 20 minutes was a joke. It really was.
But then
they were trying to play.
You do wonder with that other way. There's such risk involved. I think back to the game against West Ham we're at last month, where West Ham's performance, I thought in the first half, was embarrassing. They barely touched the ball in the Manchester City half. They frustrated the life out of them though, and were still in the game with 15-20 minutes to go, and had a couple of chances. Had the best chance early in the second half. Maybe that's the only way. Don't concede.
Of course. Well, that's the basic one, isn't it? Of course it is. I saw Wigan beat Man City in the FA Cup last season by playing that way. I had one chance, Will Grigg scored, that was it. But if you look at the Crystal Palace game when they beat them in the Premier League this season, Roy Hodgson way, well organised, 4-4-1-1 with Zaha, and was it Zaha? I think it was Zaha playing that day. But how they got at City was through ball carries. Andros Townsend was brilliant at carrying it forward for them. And they had ball carries in the side, but they sat in well organised, and they had a formula to try and break the press, quick, direct passing, and ball carries were getting the pitch that was able to carry the ball forward from them. And I know that Andros Townsend scored an absolute worldie, and no keeper in the world's going to, but they were creating problems for City, and that's how they did it. And I think that's almost like you're not going to be able to play toe-to-toe with them. You're not going to be able to outplay them. But there's got to be a way. There's got to be certain ways to get at them. And I think that's, anyone would ever watch back at that Crystal Palace game and what they did, it wasn't just the 3 goals they scored in the day. It was the chances and the openings they created on the break in that match as well.
What about the second semi-final, which should certainly be tighter between Watford and Wolves, and it would mark a really successful season for either of them if they get to the cup final, because they're going to finish in the top half of the Premier League table as well. I did wonder whether maybe Watford would be replaying some of Matt Doherty's press conference ahead of the Ireland games when he was talking about Wolves' season and talking about in the FA Cup final, we won't fear Manchester City. Maybe getting a step ahead of themselves.
Yeah, I'm sure it probably has. It has been probably put back. I think in general when Matt said that, what was his exact words about the game against Watford? I think he said, "No, we will fancy our chances. I think we'll beat them." I think it was something like that he said. And of course, that gets back. It does get back. And I've liked Watford though. I've liked watching Watford over the last couple of seasons. I know last season they had a spell where they weren't the greatest, but they're another side that's well organised. I really like Decore in midfield. Will Hughes is a lovely footballer. I saw the start of his career when he's first starting to come into the first team at Derby. They've got physicality with Andros Gray and Troy Deeney. They've got a bit of class with De La Feu. This is a 50-50 game. Without a doubt, it's a 50-50 game. And I wouldn't necessarily use that Wolves performance against Man United as any sort of barometer to how this game's going to go. Well, because Watford are a brilliant side on with real pace and energy in the side, and that's one thing. If you can get at Wolves, there's no real dynamic pace defensively for them. When they get caught, Conor Cody's done great for them. Willy Bolly has done great for them. But if you can get with the 2 wing backs when they do play high and wide, get them forced out into wider positions, full back positions, they get a little bit exposed. So I think that's the way to get at them, and I think that's the way that they'll do it. I'm not saying they're going to do it, but I think I do. Someone just give me a waiver. That was bloody hell. What did? I'm trying to explain something to.
That was very interesting, but you're live on the on the telly as well, and you're waving to people in the background. It's very off-putting.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you need me to continue then?
Yeah, go on then. Continue with your point.
No, I've finished it now.
You're talking about about you want the fullbacks pushed up to get the wing backs.
If you watch Wolves, you've seen Wolves yourself this season. They are at many times they're the furthest player forward. They're almost in line with Raul Jimenez, and they are in line with Raul Jimenez how they play. The two you would think how they play 3-4-3. The two wide men come in and play inside number 10s. How Chelsea played with Hazard and Pedro or Willian, how they played. You can picture it in your head how they played under Conte. That's what Wolves do. There is a way to get them exposed down the inside or the outside left and right channels. That's how you can get at them. So, from Watford's point of view, then, do you keep your two full-backs back as far as possible to invite Doherty and Johnny Castro onto you? Well, they've got to be brave. They've got to say to the wide man that's in front of them, which, in fairness, when you've got Pereira who plays on the left-hand side, he's not a naturally gifted defensive player as well. So if I'm Holebas, if I'm a left-back and I'm playing with Pereira, I'm saying, do not come back in. I'll deal with him one-on-one. Play the other side of him. So when we win the ball, that's our out ball. You have to be our out ball. Or if it's De La Feu on the other side, whoever it's going to be, that's what I would be saying to them. I'd say, you don't need to come back. Leave me one-on-one. I'm comfortable enough dealing with this. As soon as we win the ball, if you play it inside, they do press very well, Wolves. But if you can break that press quickly and get someone like Pereira away, that's where I'd always feel you can expose the 3-4-3 system. Do you let Wolves have the ball in midfield? They do like to have the ball with Neves and Moutinho. If you would imagine those two would be starting the game. They're naturally gifted players that do like to dominate the ball. That's how Wolves play. And a majority of the games this season, they have dominated possession against sides outside the top six. When they've played sides inside the top six, I saw them play Man City this season, and it was a change of formula for them. They actually went to a real back five. Doherty and Johnny was the two fullbacks who played on that day. They became a back five, and they had two ball carriers in midfield that was taking them up the pitch. And that was what they were doing. They tried to break with the two wide men that were coming into positions, as I spoke about before, playing inside forward. So they were getting either side of Fernandinho. They were winning the ball quickly and carrying the ball, and that's how Wolves got into it. They had about 30% possession in the game, but that's how they exposed sides. It was in contrast to how Wolves play, and I think they'll play against Wolves with the usual way that Wolves play, trying to dominate the football, trying to be open and expansive. But there is a way to hurt that system when they play that way. Will is wondering, in what part of the Pro Licence handbook would I find the chapter marked what to do when things go tits up? That's panic, isn't it? That's what it is. Yeah, it's under that, it's just panic in capital letters, I think. That's what it is. Lads, Johnny Ward is next to completely useless at picking winners. While you have the boy Kev on there, will you get his tip for the National on Saturday from Steve? Right, do you know what? I was actually with Robbie Power last night, or Tuesday night, and he fancies jury duty. It's about 25-1. Oh, we'll take that. So jury duty. They all fancy Tiger Roll, but we can't be touching Tiger Roll at the price it is. So jury duty. No way. No, I've looked at the price there, Nate. It was 25-1. I saw it with certain bookmakers the other day. So jury duty. So Gordon Elliott horse as well. So jury duty around about 20-1. Robbie Power has said he quite fancies it. Yeah, and he had a winner today on Super Sunday as well. So he's up and running at the Aintree Festival. So yeah, there you go. Aintree meeting. A last bit of detail on Kev's best mate, Mike Bushell. Part of his remit is to inspire the BBC audience to be more active and to try different sports that might suit them. Consequently, he has tried over 350 different sports, ranging from shin kicking, whip cracking and swamp soccer to rush hockey, spike volleyball and shopping centre squash. Doesn't sound like a real job. Have you Googled that? Who do you think's giving me that information? JP's just fed it through. Sounds like his dream job. It is, yeah. That would be. That's a good gig. It's good, yeah. I've seen some of the features he's done. He's very good. He is, yeah, it's quite good. Yeah, it's good. Before we let you go, then, we're going to be at Goodison on Sunday for Everton against Arsenal. You were at the game against West Ham last week, which do you feel it was probably the best performance of the season, one of their best performances of the season so far? What's changed? Away from home, definitely, Nath. They played really well. Bernard, we spoke about Bernard when we've commentated on the game, and he's been fairly anonymous. I think I'd be fair in saying that, Nath. He's not had a big impact in the games. You can see he's got quality. You can see technically he's a brilliant footballer, but he's not had a big impact. He was brilliant at the weekend, coming inside, playing in little pockets, inside channels, freeing up Luca Dean on the outside, Seamus Coleman on the other side with Richarlison. They look to me like they've got a really good understanding together as well now. Up front, Dominic Calvert-Lewin was excellent. I think he stretched West Ham's defence and he was freeing up space for the players behind him. Gomez was excellent. I think Idrissa Gueye was excellent. Defensively looked sound. And even Jordan Pickford looked quite solid as well at the weekend. So, yeah, I think to a man, they were very good. So you're looking for that sort of performance again. And if they do, I think they've got a great chance of beating Arsenal. Yeah,
Arsenal obviously have a away record that isn't particularly good. Presuming it doesn't change the side then, like, part of the problem for them this season has been who leads the line, and I know you've never been particularly a fan of Richarlison playing straight through the middle, which he did for so much of this season. You're talking about him playing out in the right there and developing a relationship with Coleman. Is Calvert-Lewin at 22 now, is he of the quality that he can lead the Everton line next season when they're going investing in the summer? Is a striker a priority, or is he somebody you can hang your hat on?
Scores, Nathan, and I don't see him as a natural finisher. He's a good player. I think
6 goals this season.
I was going to say 7, actually. I was actually going to say 7, but yeah. So 6 goals, it's not enough, and that's the way it is. And I know he's not started a lot of games. If you give him a run of starts like he's had, even at the weekend, I don't think he had a chance. He played really well. His hold-up play was excellent. It was a little bit like David McGoldrick against Georgia, where he led the line really well, but never really had too many chances, if you know what I mean. And that's the way that I could maybe describe him from last week. So there's talk of they're trying to sign Solomon Rondon. That's supposedly one of the big targets for the summer because he's only on loan at Newcastle. Now, whether Newcastle can get the deal done, I don't know.
Is he a goal scorer?
No, he's of the similar sort of player, isn't he? He's not. He'll lead the line well. Cenk Tosun's another. I saw him play for Turkey. Was it Moldova they played in the international break? He was brilliant, holding the ball up well. He was getting shots away, scored a goal. He looked a total different player from when I've seen him play for Everton. So it's a problem position, but I wouldn't play Richarlison there. I think Richarlison playing a bit deeper in a wider position. He still gets goal chances because he does like to make late runs into the penalty area, but also he's got a bit of class and a bit of creativity on the wing to hurt teams. So I'd like him to play left or right, Richarlison. But a number 9, if you're asking me to be totally fair and say, would I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin would be leading the line for Everton for a number of years? I'd have to say no, because I don't see him be the type of player that's going to lead the line and get goals. He's brilliant at leading the line. I think his movement's very good. But I just don't see him as getting the goals, Nath, no.
A couple of decent results then for Everton over the last few weeks. It seems to have gone quiet, the speculation and the pressure on Marco Silva. Is that your sense from being around the club and what you hear, that actually he might get the summer and get further investment?
Yeah, it does feel that way. It does feel a little bit like that at the moment. I think with the weekend, the way that they played against West Ham, I think there was a little bit of optimism around that sort of performance. It's like, right, this is a stereotypical Premier League away performance, how Everton played, and they haven't done it enough. We haven't necessarily seen the quality. We haven't necessarily seen the class that they've got within the side to get that type of performance more than anything. And yes, the results flow off the back of performances, but Everton haven't produced that type of performance away from home. At home, it's been pretty poor. I have to say that. They've not really shown really up-tempo performances. I know the last game, the second half against Chelsea, they were excellent. First half, they weren't. They weren't really good against Chelsea in that first half. So I think with the last, what we're looking at, the game and a half, you're looking at a real complete performances from Everton. I think that's what they need to maintain now at the end of the season. But it looks to me, if they can maintain it, they will be getting Marco Silva will be on charge next season, yeah.
All right, we'll be there live at Goodison. Everton against Arsenal just after 2 o'clock. It gets underway on Sunday. Kev, great stuff.
Cheers, Nate.
Tell Mike we're a big fan of his work.
Yeah, I think he's gone now. I think I bored him when he probably heard me talking about him, yeah.
That's sad. I'm sure you'll find some other friends up there.
What was that, Mike? Yeah, he's a big fan of your work too, Nate.
Top banter, Kev. Top banter.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you Saturday. Good luck.
Cheers. Take it easy.
Quick break. We'll be talking to Paddy Agnew next.
Football on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by the new and improved Boyle Sports Bet Builder. Now with 44 markets to choose from on every match.
With Harvey Norman's interest-free finance options, you can get what you really want today. Fill out a simple application in less than 10 minutes and you could get approval just 15 minutes later. It's that easy. And with interest-free finance terms ranging from 18 months to up to 3 years, we'll have a repayment schedule that suits you. Apply online or visit your local Harvey Norman today. What would you get?
Terms and conditions apply, subject to assessment. Finance provided by Creation Consumer Finance Limited and Flexify Europe Limited. For full terms and conditions, visit harveynorman.ie/finance.
If you're thinking of buying a residential rental property, ICS Mortgages can provide an excellent range of flexible buy-to-let mortgages, including interest-only terms of up to 15 years. We'll also help you to refinance your existing portfolio and grow your property investments. Call 1890 427 427, visit icsmortgages.ie or contact your local mortgage broker. ICS Mortgages, the property investor's choice. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply and are subject to change. The entire amount that you have borrowed will still be outstanding at the end of the interest-only period. Dillosk DAC, trading as Dillosk and ICS Mortgages, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Not happy with your horse in the Grand National Office Sweepstake? Top tip, QuinBet has you covered right through the festival and beyond, with a huge selection of markets on horse racing plus all your favourite sports. And now with live casino and Irish lottery betting. You can find us on mobile, app and PC. QuinBet.com. T's and C's apply. Gamble responsibly. Visit gambleaware.ie.
Oh, hello, love. I see you've turned our shed into a space station?
It's my research bunker.
Of course.
Where I track every price fluctuation and cross-reference geopolitical events to anticipate promotional offers.
Right, well, if I could just get the lawnmower.
And I'm close, Peter. I'm close to finding the way to save on car insurance.
But I've already done that. I went to 123.ie and saved 10%, no hassle at all.
Oh, I might get out of here then. I think the spiders have made a nest in my hair.
Simple is smarter. Get 10% off new car insurance when you buy online at 123.ie. Acceptance criteria, T's and C's apply. 123 Money Limited trading as 123.ie is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. RSA Insurance Ireland Act provides 123.ie car insurance.
This week's SuperValue's amazing 48-hour special is buy any 3 Cadbury, Nestle or Mars medium Easter eggs for only €3. That's an amazing €1 per Easter egg. Offer finishes this Friday. Grab them quick because when they're gone, they're gone. Customer quotas may apply. All things considered, it's SuperValue.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
So you're welcome back to Thursday's football show. Italian football journalist Paddy Agnew is on the line because there is a lot going on in Italian football at the moment. Evening, Paddy.
Good evening, Joe, and evening to all our listeners.
I guess we really should start with the racist abuse suffered by the Juventus player Moise Kean in the game against Cagliari on Tuesday night, which has been gaining headlines in this part of the world as well. And in particular, the reaction not just from the crowd after he scored that goal, but also the reaction post-match after the racist abuse from his teammates and his manager. You might talk us through what happened on Tuesday night.
Okay, you're absolutely right. This is the biggest story in Italian football at the moment. Although, curiously enough, it's a much bigger story outside Italian football than it is inside Italian football. And I see, players from Germany, France, and obviously Britain expressing their unhappiness about it. But the story's simple enough. Kean, and the Italians call him Kean, even though we'd call it Kean. He scored the decisive goal in a 2-0 away win against Cagliari the other night in 85th minute goal. And after he scored it, he scored it in front of at the Cagliari ultra end of the ground at their cup. And after he'd scored it, he just ran around the post and stood there with his hands out wide. By way of goal celebration. No, he was doing that. He says, and a number of independent witnesses have verified this, because he had been subject to a deal of racist abuse and the classic monkey chants and stuff throughout the game, and he did it for that reason. And if he did then. He provoked a very negative reaction from the ultras and from, well, they weren't all ultras, obviously, but he provoked a very negative reaction from fans at that end of the ground, and they really, the monkey chants and the racist chants really gathered volume for I don't know, about 4 or 5 minutes. But as that was happening, the Juventus defender Bonucci, one of the senior players in the team, he ran up to Kean and got a hold of him and pulled him away and said, get on out of that. Don't. Basically, he seemed to be saying, don't annoy them. And then subsequently, Bonucci poured a bit of petrol on the fire because he said that the incident was obviously regrettable, but there was a sort of 50-50 responsibility. In other words, the fans had behaved appallingly, of course, but Kean had provoked them. Well, if he said that, he obviously walked himself into the father and mother of a row, didn't he?
He certainly did, and there's been widespread criticism from Raheem Sterling to footballers across Europe towards Leonardo Bonucci's reaction for saying that this was 50-50, that by standing in front of the Cagliari supporters with his arms outstretched, well, maybe he was asking for it.
Yeah. Well, Lilian Thuram, do you remember Thuram? Great French defender, Juventus player. He said this evening, it's, when racist insults against the black players are racist insult against all black people at the end of the day. And it's simply not acceptable. It's to say what Bonucci is saying there, he said it's a bit like, it's very similar to the sort of thing which people say about a rape victim, saying, well, she was asking for it, she was wearing a mini skirt and she had her blouse undone, etc., that sort of stuff. And he said it's completely inexcusable.
Yeah, and it's the sort of stuff we think that we have moved on from in one sense. Listen, the racist abuse is still there around Europe. We've seen that with England's international fixtures recently, and Raheem Sterling actually did a similar-ish celebration after he scored a goal, and I don't think anybody said that the blame was 50-50, but certainly the reaction from the vast majority of the public, from people in the media, has been overwhelmingly in support of the players and real condemnation of the supporters. Has there been much condemnation of the supporters in all of this?
Not a lot. I mean, as far as I understand, for example, the Football Federation will have an inquiry, but the Football Federation report is likely to say that it was only that the racist abuse came from a very small minority of the fans, and Cagliari may be fined, but it'll be a small fine, and that'll be the end of the matter. So the authorities aren't going to take very much action.
But it's not as if this is the first time either. So Kick It Out released a statement saying this is the third year in a row that black players have been racially abused at Cagliari. Blaise Matuidi and Sully Montari have faced the exact same treatment. How 3 years in a row can this happen and the Italian FA just sort of wipe their hands of it?
Well, I'll tell you something. About 10 years ago, I attended a seminar at the British Embassy here in Rome. A very interesting seminar about racism in football, and Kick It Out were one of the, and there were a couple of other groups there whose names escape me. And talking to those people afterwards, they said to me something which I had already worked out for myself. He said, Italian football authorities don't actually realise how serious this problem is, and how seriously the rest of us take it, and how not seriously they're taking it. The Gazette dello Sport, which is a serious and a good paper, was remarking almost with curiosity this morning how half of Europe's up in arms about what happened at the stadium last night, as if to say, well, come on, lads, it was just a few monkey shouts, that's all.
Yeah, it's incredible stuff. And when you look at recent history in Italian football, and not even just recent history, I was going to ask how common has racist abuse been in football stadiums, but you think back to Mario Balotelli talking about when he first broke in to the team and the racist abuse he had to put up with. Sully Montari has spoken about being treated like a criminal because he was black and on a football pitch in Italy in the last year or so. We've seen issues with Lazio yet again and anti-Semitism. This is a continuing pattern that, from the outside, it seems the Italian FA have no great interest in coming down hard on any club. You'd wonder at some stage, does pressure come on from UEFA onto the Italian FA, or are they just happy to let them at it and not become fully embroiled in this?
I think that unofficially pressure has come on UEFA in relation to this problem. But I mean, can I just tell you, it's 13 years ago now. I wrote a book about 14 years ago. I wrote a book about Italian football, Forza Italia, and I talked about a lot of different things. But I talked for a couple of pages in it. I talk about racism, and I told a couple of the stories of things that were happening then. That was, and I was writing the book in 2004 and 2005, and one of the stories I told was of an Ivory Coast player who used to play for Messina called Zorro, who. He was playing for Messina at home to Inter Milan in a Sunday Serie A game. And at a certain point, he got so fed up with the amount of racist abuse he was getting from the Inter fans, the travelling Inter fans, that he, in the middle of play, he picked up the ball and made to walk off the pitch. And if he did, he was stopped by the referee, and he was stopped in particular by two of the Inter players of the day. I don't know if you remember, the big Brazilian Adriano and a guy called the Nigerian Obafemi Martins, who I think he ended up in Newcastle at some point.
He did,
yeah. And anyway, those two guys stopped him doing it. But the point about it, but then he made a long statement that day, Zorro, in which he said, I'm really fed up listening to being abused. Verbally abused throughout games, and referees doing nothing about it. And referees, nothing's actually going to happen until some point somebody picks up the ball, walks off, and the game does not begin again. And that is, that debate is full on. It happened recently. No less a person than Carlo Ancelotti suggested after, we had a violent incident. Inter versus Napoli on St. Stephen's Day, because this year Italian football played over the Christmas break. We had a St. Stephen's Day programme. The big game was Inter versus Napoli. And some of the Napoli fans were ambushed when they got to, literally ambushed on their way in the streets close to the San Siro. And there was a deal of street fighting going on for about 5 to 10 minutes. But one person was killed. A guy called Daniele Bellardinelli was killed in this. This was before the game. When the game then began, whether the two things are linked remains, but when the game began then, Napoli's wonderful central defender, the Koulibaly. Koulibaly was subject to racist abuse throughout the game. Eventually, he got himself yellow carded in the second half, but he then made a sarcastic sort of gesture to the referee because saying, "Well, yeah," he said afterwards, "Well, I was so fed up with the way the referee had done nothing about all the racist abuse I was getting. I made that gesture to him." So if he did, he got sent off then. But after that game, Ancelotti during that game had gone to the referee's assistant on the sideline and said, "Can you not do something about this? You've got to stop this. This game's got to stop. This abuse of Koulibaly's gone on too much." So Ancelotti said it again. He said it again after the game, and he said it after last night. You're at a point where, at some point in a big game, the players, the referee, have got to appeal to the local. And they can't decide themselves. They've got to appeal to the senior policeman, essentially, on the place, and he can decide to call the game off.
Yeah, it sounds bizarre in a way that Carlo Ancelotti is seen as an outlier in his attitude, because even in that game between Juventus and Cagliari, Blaise Matuidi appeared at one stage to be looking over to Max Allegri, his manager, suggesting that maybe we need to take the players off the pitch. And Allegri didn't go quite as far as Leonardo Bonucci in saying that it's 50-50, but he did say that Kean shouldn't have celebrated in that manner. And he went on then when he was asked about whether the game should potentially be stopped. He said, "I don't think talking about it at all helps. I don't think halting play helps, because not everyone in the stadium did that." And when that's the manager saying that, unwilling to back one of his brightest young talents, a player who's going to be worth many millions of euro to the club over the coming years, when he's not willing to publicly back him and say, "Actually, for the good of my players, I would take them off the pitch," there's no clear end to this in sight. There's an absolute absence of leadership there from Allegri.
Well, there are a number of different things going on here. I mean, Kean is a 19-year-old. This is his first season. He's only played half a dozen games, if that, in the first team. He's going to be an absolutely fantastic player. There's no question of that. But it's a bit like, Sir Alex Ferguson with Ronaldo when he had him as an 18-year-old at Manchester United. They really careful to look after the kid, try to keep him out of the sort of huge media buzz that could be surrounding him. And in that sense, he's terrified that, not only has the guy been an explosion, he scored 2 goals for the national team last week. He scored goals in his last 2 games for Juventus. He's managed to step into the absence left by Cristiano Ronaldo, who's obviously injured at the moment, and he's been extraordinary. And I think what Allegri is worried about there is too much media exposure for the guy. Allegri, though, on the question of defending the players and taking his team off if necessary, he's very much of the school, and there are a lot of people in Italian football who feel this, which is that, if you do that, then you've the thugs and the racists have won that managed to stop the game.
Leonardo Bonucci's response, in a way, has inadvertently brought far greater interest to what happened on Tuesday night, because it was such a shocking reaction from a fellow teammate. But if you were to go over to a Serie A match of any given weekend, would you hear racist chanting? Would you expect to hear racist chanting? Like, is it that common? Is it only reported certain times when players react?
No, I mean, it's much more reported at certain times in certain matches and certain sets of fans. But as you pointed out before, it's the 3rd year in a row there's been problems at Cagliari. So there are obviously fans there. There are definitely problems with Lazio fans. There are definitely problems with the Roma fans sometimes. But I'll tell you something, though. I've been... really the only football ground I go to regularly is the Olympic Stadium in Rome. And there have been... Sometimes you have sometimes incidents take place, and people have to tell me about it afterwards, because I don't. The minority are so much a minority. Sometimes you don't hear them, and sometimes, and I've seen this at the Olympic Stadium, I've seen it elsewhere. The vast majority of the fans, as soon as there's some of that sort of chanting sets up, the vast majority of the fans then shout them down.
Yeah, which is good to hear. I guess as well, this is a reflection of Italian society at the moment as well. In some ways, you look at the recent elections, the rise of the right-wing parties. Even today, you're reading about Matteo Salvini, who's the interior minister, telling 64 refugees stuck in a boat off Italy to go to Hamburg. Like, that is the national conversation that's happening in Italy at the moment. That is the tone of conversation.
No, we're caught up in Italy. We're very much caught up in a neoconservative stroke neo-fascist moment, which, by the way, is part of what's going on in Brexit as well, but nobody says that. But Salvini certainly does, his rhetoric certainly doesn't help, and what you would have to say there is that Italy was not a great colonial power. Doesn't have has not like countries like France and England had a resident black population since World War II, and it's only in the last 25 years that black migrants, black boat people, as many of them were, have arrived and tried to settle in Italy, and it's not easy for them. And the whole concept, which is fundamental, obviously, to dealing with migrants, the whole concept of integration, Italy's a long way behind in that. And it's you're not going to see a black man driving a taxi in Rome. You won't see a black man driving a bus in Rome.
Really,
you won't see a black man as a reading the news and TV, or well, there is one as happened once. You won't see a black man as a bank manager. There is no integration on that level. Black people, black migrants in Italy end up doing, by and large, seasonal farming jobs.
That's pretty shocking to hear in this day and age. Is that changing at a pretty rapid pace?
Is it changing? No, it needs to change. That's what I'm saying. And the racism, there's a fundamental racism that's at the basis of Matteo Salvini's success, and it's based on people not actually understanding that these are not sort of slaves who've come in off a raft. These are black. These are people like you and me and you've got to, in some way, make room for them. It's also based on the fact that, as we know, throughout the developed world, migrants are not popular with a lot of people who the poorer people in society, who fear for their own work and their own jobs.
Yeah. Football feels pretty small when you talk about these bigger issues around the world going on right now. And
yeah, but football reflects them, though. The treatment of and the Italian reaction sometimes to racism in football is just a perfect reflection of what's going on in the wider society around them.
Absolutely. Just before we let you go then, on the football side of this from Juventus' point of view, Moise Kean's a young kid, he's 19.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how comfortable he is with the focus that will have come on him over the past few days. You look at the journey Raheem Sterling has gone on over the last 3 or 4 years, where he's become such a brilliant advocate and is so eloquent in the way he can now talk about racism and the stand he's willing to take and put himself front and centre. I don't know if Moise Kean is in that position in his life right now, and how this is maybe going to affect him at Juventus over the end of this season, and whether it's damaged relations within the club, or, as you say, is it a case that we're talking about it here in Ireland, it's a conversation around Europe, but actually in Turin at Juventus, life just goes on?
Well, it's a little bit of the latter, but I mean, this is a big issue. But the best thing I could say about Kean is that he is in the best club he could possibly be in at the moment to deal with a situation like this, because, you know, Juventus are a terrifically well-organised club, and they know how to look after their players, and they will look after him, and, you know, they'll keep him out of, as much as possible, to keep him out of unnecessary media spotlight, because there could be a lot of that if he wanted. I've noticed that today he's issued a couple of tweets and things. He's, he hasn't gone to ground, and he's very much making common cause on this whole racism issue with his teammate Matuidi, who's very outspoken on as I'm sure you know, on a whole series of subjects, but particularly on racism.
Paddy, thanks a lot for joining us. We'll check in with you again soon. I know there's a lot to talk about with Juventus in the Champions League and what's been going on with Mauro Icardi and all that stuff at Inter Milan. Yeah. We'll do that next week.
That's a great story.
It is. I think it's a definitely post-watershed story. We want the full, salacious details of what's been going on with Mauro Icardi. We'll save that till next week. Thanks, Paddy.
Okay. Good night.
What type of midfielder is Herrera? He's not a box-to-box. He's not defensive. He can't do a